So I'm going to pause. Let me stop sharing, then I'll share again. I want to share the second screen and not this one. So let me share the second screen so that you can follow up. Yeah. All right, we're back. Okay. So now everything is being recorded. Okay, let's fire down. So I said I want to talk about.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
This recording now, I hope if you send it now, it will be a kind of video as we are talking. You're also showing the work, writing it, everything working all together.
Exactly.
Not that the voice will be different, the write-up will be different. Okay, but all of them will talking all together. You can also just like video class.
Yes, now exactly. Everything will be showing.
Okay, all right, we go on.
All right.
Okay.
So let's fire down. So data entry in Excel. So to enter data in Excel, we need to look at what we call the data types. Okay, we need to look at what we call the data types. So what is data type? Okay, these are different forms in which data can appear. Okay, there are different forms which data can appear. It's not really a big deal. It's not really a big deal. So data can appear in different forms or in different types. In fact, in computer science and programming, data type is a collection or group of data that can be used in a particular way or in a particular environment, depending on what you want to do based on presentation. Let me put the definition here. So I said in computer science and programming, a data type is a collection or grouping of data values, usually specified by a set of possible values or a set of allowed operations on these particular values, and or a representation of these values as machine type, which means data can come in different types depending on what you want to do. Okay, depending on what you want to do, we have different data types, so it depends on what you want to do in a particular way or in a particular place or a particular type. That is when what determines the type of data you use. But generally, we have the most commonly used data types. So I'm going to list about 6 different commonly used data types, especially in general programming. Okay, we have a lot of them, but I'm going to talk about generally. So in general, we have different data types. One includes a string. So we have the string data type. Now the string data type is simply any data type that contains alphanumeric variables. Okay, this data type, let me just define it here. This data type, they contain alphanumeric values. Right, so they contain alphanumeric values, and they are used for the most part just for writing both numbers and alphabet together. Okay, example is something like your name. For example, you can say my name is Victor, or just Victor. Okay, this becomes a string. Though in actual programming, this string will need to be defined. That's what we call defining a string. Initialization of a string. You can initiate a string. You can define it. You define it, then you initialize it, then you assign a variable to it. What we call the assignment operator. We'll get to that when we start dealing with Python. Alright. So a string can be just this stuff. A string. We also have other. Under that string, we also have what we call the variable character and some other things. If we are dealing with SQL or some kind of languages, talk about variable character. So another example can be just a letter, maybe just a letter like this, can also be a string. Okay. Once you see, if you notice that they have quotes, you can have single quotes or you can have double quotes. So this can be single quotes, can be double quotes. You can also have a long sentence, a whole sentence to be a string. So I can have, and this, whoa, can I type? This is a string. Okay, I have this as a string. So these are also an example of it. So I can have a long sentence or even a paragraph as a string. Alright. So, but the most important thing is that they contain alphanumeric variables. Okay, number 2, we have the one we call, let me call it number, but actually integers. Integers, or you can call them numbers.
Sorry for interruption. Sorry for interruption.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, continue.
I have a question.
Continue.
Can I ask?
Yes,
Can
ask
I
the
ask?
question. Yes, ask.
You said this is string. Yeah, like for example, using the example Victor. You
Yes.
said it's a string, but in programming you need to define it. That meaning that this Victor is not defined. So, and it will be defined when you use it with a number like Victor 6 or 7. Is that what you are trying to say?
No. What I'm trying to say is that,
or is it that Victor now is just Victor is defined like that?
no, it's not defined like that. It's not defined like that. In programming, this Victor you are seeing is not actually, it's just a string like this. But what I'm saying is that in programming you need to assign it, and we're going to cover that later. But let me just give you an example. For example, if it were to be JavaScript, we're going to say const or let. Okay, let me use the word let, for example, name be equal to Victor. Now this becomes now when you actually console log or run this particular code now, it's going to give you the data type of a string. If you check in, if you say type of, let's say type of name, if you run this code type of name and console log it, it will actually give you, let's say you do something like console.log and run this particular code, it's going to tell you that the type of this thing is going to be, let's say it's going to return, let's use this is a comment. So this returns a string. Okay, it returns a string because now it is, now look at what is happening here. We are using this thing to declare the variable let. We are declaring variables. It can be let, it can be var, it can also be const for constant. Okay, so depending on what, but I prefer to just use let because ES5 syntax. So I'm going to cover all this later. Okay, so but we say name, we declare this name, so we declare this name. Okay, we declare this variable name, we give it a name of name, and then we assign it. This is assignment operator. In mathematics we call it equality sign, but this is assignment operator. Once you assign a value, this is actually a value, we assign it, and this is what makes this thing a variable. Okay, once you have something like this, it becomes what? A variable. This is a variable. This name now becomes a variable. So what we actually console logging here is the variable, the type of that variable, which if we run this code now, it's going to give us a string. Okay, that's what we're saying. That's what I mean by that. So if you have to be something like maybe Python, you don't need to actually, you just say name equal to Victor. Okay, and then you can just print. In Python you can just print this. Okay, in Python you can just print name. Okay, and just print name and you see Victor on the screen. Okay, so that is how it is with programming. Like in PHP, the same thing. If you were to be PHP, you can still do something like PHP, you declare it like this and see the same process. Assign name, you see Victor. So what we're saying that in all programming languages, all these things are there. If it were to be C# or Java, you can simply, if it's something like Java, you can just see str or string, or you can use void name. And if this is going to be the string, now in that we have class. Okay, class of name, you can do it equal to, if it's Java, and do class of that, and you still have the same process, the same thing. You assign it to that thing and close it. Then it's applicable to C#, and C# you can do int something. You declare the data type of that particular thing before you do it. You give it a name. I think in TypeScript is something similar to that too, but then the type comes just in front of it. Okay, for example, if you just type script and say something like let maybe name, put the data type, something like that, say equal to Victor, and then we can have that thing. So in programming language, what we are saying is that all these things are part of the way we can declare a string. But then some programming languages might call it, like for example in SQL, it's called varchar, that is variable character. In SQL they call it variable character varchar. In some other things they call it, several names. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to being what? A string. And this thing can be used to declare a variable that contains alphanumeric characters, alphanumeric values or characters. That's what we are simply saying. Alright. I think that answers the question. So let's go over to integers or numbers. Okay. When we talk about integers, it's basically numbers from negative infinity to 0 and then to positive infinity. Alright. So have negative infinity to 0 and then positive infinity. Those are integers. The same thing is applicable to numbers. But it will interest you to know that numbers are divided into different forms and different categories. There are some numbers that have like for example, those days in primary school we talk about numbers that has to do with we have, of course, we won't start with counting numbers. Okay, let's start with the simple one. Counting number starts from 1 to infinity. Okay, infinity. Okay, then we'll have apart from that, we'll have even numbers. Even numbers are numbers that are divisible by 2. Okay, they are numbers that are divisible by 2. Numbers are divisible by 2. Okay, those are even numbers. Alright. Why we have odd numbers too? Odd numbers are numbers that are not divisible by 2. They can only be divisible by 1 and themselves. Okay. For example, we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. Okay. I don't even know if 9 is among them. Okay. Maybe it is. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. Okay. Those are all numbers that are odd numbers. Then apart from that, we have factors and prime factors. We have prime numbers, and there are so many of them. There are so many of them which we will not be able to just cover right now. Alright. So those are all numbers that we can have in this particular aspect. However, we have a set of numbers. We have another one called floats or floating point numbers. These numbers are simply numbers that has decimal point. Okay. For example, that's, let's say, numbers with decimal point. These numbers include something like maybe 4.2, 1.1, 0, or 9. Anytime you see a number that has a decimal point, even if it's 0.92, that's a number. That's a floating point number because that's a digital. Yeah. In some programming language, they call it double, some call it some other thing, but basically they are all the same thing. They are all the same thing, right? So that is how it is to understand what is going on with those numbers. Okay, so let's look at the other one. We have the one called Boolean. Okay. There's one called Boolean numbers. It's not even numbers, just Boolean. Okay, when we talk about Booleans, we're talking about a data type that has to do with only one value, which can be either be true or it is false. Okay, either it is true or false. Either it is true or false. Okay, so something can either be true or false. Something can either be true or false. So, for example, we can check for a program using conditional. You can say if maybe username For example, you can check for that. They say if username, then do something. Okay, that is how it is. Okay. Username, do something. Okay, so that is how it is. Very, very simple. So apart from that username, we have apart from checking for username, we can check for so many things. Anything actually whatsoever can do that using a Boolean stuff, right? So the next thing I want to look at is the next data type, which is also very, very important. Some call it the undefined data type, or you can call it the null data type. Now, there is a controversy over this, but let me leave that part. So, but most importantly, whenever a data type returns an empty data set, whenever something is empty, or when something is not defined, it becomes what? Undefined. So that's what we mean by empty data type. Okay, that's what we mean by empty data type. Okay, so apart from that, we have that's just what it is with this one. Okay, just anytime you have empty data type or something that is not defined, we call it an undefined data type or a null data type. We have the sixth one, which is like the last one. We have the object data type. Object data type. This object data type it includes the advanced data types that we have in programming. Stuff like JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, forget about the JavaScript. It's not really about JavaScript. You can use it anywhere. We have the one we call XML, which stands for Extendable Markup Language. Alright, language. Alright, that's XML. Apart from XML, we have another one we call I think let's say CSV. This is the one we'll be using for the most part in Python. It's called comma separated values. Okay, comma separated values. Alright, so these are the major. The other ones, we even have the likes of array. You can have an array. In Python, you can have list. You can have dictionary. We talk about dictionary. Okay, and then we can have a set in Python. I'll cover all these things in Python when we enter Python. I'll cover all these data sets that are under all these data types that are under this. Alright, so they have examples and all that, which I will not cover now, but we are going to get them much later. So in this object data type, the data comes in form of an object. Okay, let me give an example of an object. So example of object data. So what is an object in programming generally? I want to talk about OPP. Okay, that's in OPP programming. To talk about object related concept. Okay, the concept of classes, homomorphism, encapsulation, and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, so let me give an example anyway. Let's say we have a class of, let me say I have an object of students or students. Yeah, students can open this object like this. So a student can have stuff inside it. This syntax is for JSON most times. Okay, so a student can have a name, for example. Okay, can have a name. That will be the name of the student. A student can have an age. That will be the age of the student. Okay. This is a simple object in JavaScript. But if it has to be JSON, this whole thing has to be wrapped in quotes. JSON will demand that this whole thing should be in quotes. It has to be JSON, and then and so on. If it has to be PHP, these objects will no longer be this. It will be something like this. And then, but for the most part, it's always the same thing. You notice where we see that all these languages, they are all related. Like this syntax for PHP, object in that form. All right. So that's what we are actually saying. Okay. So those are the examples of data types in this concept, right? So now, since we know the different types of data, we can now go ahead and enter data into our Excel. So let's enter data or data entry in Excel. Okay, data entry in Excel. The time I went for one particular work, the work was just a data entry work. My work is just to come there. They will give me a hard copy of files, and then I'll actually do the data entry for them by just entering data into the database, and that's all. And at the end of the day, I'll be paid. Okay, so that's what we're saying. So it's actually a good stuff. All right. So to enter data into a cell, we simply understand that a cell contains cells. Okay, it's inside those cells that we enter the record. Okay, we enter the record. So what is record? Record is simply a data in a database. Simply data in a database. That's what a record is. So let's go into that. So inside a cell now, we want to enter some record in this database. To enter the record in the database is simple. All we need to do is to put the type of data we want to enter, and then we'll enter it. So, but before I go on, I want to expand this. Let me increase the font so I can see it properly. So I'm going to use, this is something like 18. Good. I'm going to use.
I have a question.
Okay, ask your question.
Sorry, this object. What is when you talk about object or what you just said now, it means the object just names like name, class, understand, name of things like name, class, anything as in just to name a particular something.
Okay.
That thing is an object. Then what is the difference between object and class?
Okay, that's good. That's good. The difference between object and class. Let me put this down. The difference. I like that question. Between object and class. Okay. Now, there's what we call object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming. Alright? Known as OOP. It's actually a concept in programming that determines it. Now, what is a class? A class is simply a blueprint of an object. Okay, let me write it down. A class is a blueprint of an object. It's a blueprint of an object. Okay, or you can define a class as a or let me just. It's just an instance of something. It's just an instance. A class is an instance of an object. Let's do it that way. It's an instance of an object. So a class. Okay, let me type it here. A class is an instance of an object. Okay, or you can say that in object-oriented programming, a class is an extendable program code template. Now, I want to look at this program code template, which means it's a template. Like I said, it's a blueprint. It's a template, it's a blueprint for creating what? An object. So we use classes to create objects, while objects on this. Okay, let me define an object. We can say that an object, can I type here? An object is an object. How do I define this now? Okay, we can say that object is anything. Okay, is anything that has or that have, I don't know, that have or has properties. Yes, it has properties and method. Yeah, let's put it that way. Anything that has properties and method becomes an object. Now
Okay.
let me
Very
explain.
good. Sorry.
Ask question. Yes, go ahead.
Why I'm asking this question, because this class, object and method, these three things, they are confusing me. So
Okay.
now you are trying to like come my confusion. So I would like you to like give me an example of that class, object and
And
method,
method. Good.
so that,
I'll do
that
that.
I will just be uh,
Good. I'll do that. All right. So I'm going to do. I think yes. Let's do it with example. Let's do. I think example will even drive the point home. Okay.
yes, yes,
So let's say we have a car. Let's say we have a car. Okay. First of all, I want to drive something home now. When we're talking about objects in programming, we're talking about something that has qualities. Now, these properties is simply you can even call it variables. You can call it a function. You can call it a method. You can call it okay. You might not call it a method, but you can call it the properties, the qualities of something. Okay, let's use a car for example. Let's use a car for example. Let's say Venza. Okay, Venza is made by Toyota. Toyota.
yes,
Now, now we want to use this as an example. Now, we can have a class. We can have a class of vehicle. Let's do it that way. Vehicle. Yeah, I'm using Python syntax anyway here. So this Python syntax. Or should I use JavaScript? Okay, let me use JavaScript syntax. Okay. Okay. And this class can even extend. Okay, let me leave extend. So this is a class. Okay, let's just do this is a class of vehicle. Now, this class of vehicle has properties. I'm going to explain what the property is, and then it also has methods. Good. Now we're going somewhere. Now, one of the properties of a car is that a car has color. For example, can have Venza that is white in color. Another property of a car is that it has a tire. It has 4 tires. That's the 4 tires. Another property of a car is that it let's say maybe it has doors. Okay, you can open it and you can close it. Okay, you can open door, and in fact the opening is not even part of it. It has doors. Okay, and then another things. But one of the methods we have in a car is that method is function. First of all, a method is also a function. Okay, method is a function that belongs to a particular class. So what is a function? Let me also define a function since we're here. So you can say that a function can I type today? A function is a block of code that can I type that can be called repeatedly. Okay, repeatedly. Okay, this is a function. So any block of code that you can call. Remember, a function is always called before you can use it. So any block of code that you can call repeatedly becomes a function. Now, apart from function, another next level we have is what we call a method. Now, what is a method? A method is simply a function that belongs to a particular class. See how we're going now. So a function is actually a block of code that we can repeat. You can use repeatedly. You can always call it. Let's say, for example, we have a function to. Let's say we have a function to drive. Let's say function. Let me use JavaScript here. Function. If it's okay, let's use Python. Dev, div. That is how we declare function in Python. Dev drive, for example. This is also a function. And even put parameter here. If you don't want, you can leave it like that. Okay. Function drive. Now, the function drive can have stuff inside it. Let's say print in quotes, I am driving. I'm driving now. Okay, so this is a function that can be called repeatedly. So for me to call the function, all I need to do is to come over here and say drive, and that's all. Once I call this function here, it will say I am driving. Then the funniest part of it is that this particular drive, I can actually call it over and over and over and over again, and it will keep on repeating that particular thing I did. So I can call drive up to 10 times or 15 times, and it will keep on writing I am driving, 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 and so on and so on to infinity. I can even use a loop and call it as much time I want to call it, as long as a particular condition is met. That's what the function is. But whenever this drive now belongs to a particular class, like this class I created here now, if I come over here now and create a method and call that method drive, a method of drive or drive anyhow. Anyway, I can put this here, sure. The method of drive, I can pass parameter inside it if I want. Okay, a method of drive, and then I can define it anyhow I want. I can say print, because what we're using is Python, so that's what I'm using on Python. I can say print, maybe start driving. Okay, so this is a method that belongs to this particular class. So for me to call this method now, because this method belongs to this class, for me to call this method, I need to call the vehicle class, and I want to call this. So to call this method, I will reference to the class, which is vehicle. I'll say vehicle. I can say dot drive. So if I call vehicle, which is this class, then so the vehicle dot drive, which is the method that belongs to this class. Remember, method is actually a function. The difference is that this particular function belongs to this class. It's only this vehicle that can use it. No other person can use this particular drive that I defined here, and that is why it is a method. Another way you can make reference to a method is if it's inbuilt in the computer. Okay, for example, we have method of print. This print method belongs to Python. Method of console.log, like for example, we have console.log in JavaScript. This log becomes a method because anytime you see parentheses, anytime you call a program and put parentheses like this, it means it's a method. Anytime you see anything like this, it's a method. Even if it's empty like this, it's a method. Like in JavaScript, you can actually call a method like this. Okay, you can actually define something like this. That means it's a self-calling method. You can actually do something like that. You can actually do anytime you see it, even a JavaScript or program, anywhere you see this, it means it's a method. Then the thing is that there are some methods that are inbuilt into the system, which means it belongs to that particular system, or they are actually defined as a function, function. That is that. Apart from method, we even have the one called module. Okay, we have the one called module, which is also another level. It's a file. The module is a file. It's actually a method, but it's a file that is reusable. Okay.
Hello.
Then hello.
You can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I hope you don't clean this example you just give.
No, I'm not cleaning it. I will send you the file. I'll send you the
file. Leave all examples like that.
Okay. Right. So finally, the class is actually a blueprint of everything. So if I want to create friends or not, if I want to create it, I can use class and create it. I use a class and create it. And then the class has what we call a constructor, which is used to construct the properties. So one of the methods here is drive. We can even have another method called start. I can define a method, call it start, which will start the car. When in one of our practicals we will do this. We'll just try creating a method like this, so that we can use it and understand more of it. Okay, we can have a start class which will start up the car, something like that. So all these are methods because they belong to this particular class. All right, let's fire down. Then we'll have module and all that. Okay. After from module, we'll have library. We also have framework, and it keeps on going like that. Right. So let's go back to data entry. Right. So under the data entry which is where I'm going to stop. So I'm going to look at data entry, then we'll call it a day. Then tomorrow again we'll continue. Tomorrow again we'll continue, and so on and so forth. All right. So okay, let's look at data entry. So let me say I want to do a data entry for student record. So here I want to capture their name, the name of the student. Next I want to capture their age. I want to capture their department. I want to capture, you see something is going on here. I want to capture their score. I want to capture finally, let me say I want to capture remark. Okay, so if you see very well, you see that I'm not seeing department in full because something is covering it. In Excel, what do? You can actually hover on, now this, what I want to say is very, very important. You can actually hover on this cell and drag it to expand it. Now, how you drag it matters a lot. Alright. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have, if I hover, you see there is a sign that is changing here. The sign changes. Once you have that cross, you can drag. Now what I do when I drag is that I drag it to a particular cell. This cell 2, I'll move again, I have cell 3, I'll move again, I have cell 4, I'll move again, I have cell 5. I can try to stop here. Depending on what I want to do, I can leave it there. You see, it expands this cell to that particular place. The same thing is applicable on the horizontal axis. If you click here, you see that I can actually expand this table into as much as I want. Okay, Ctrl Z, go back. Now, whenever you expand, the best practice is just to make sure you're expanding through the cell. If I get this cell 2, this cell 3, cell 4, and I'll let go. Okay, it depends on what you want to do. But for me, I'm going to use 2 cells here, so I'm going to use cell 2 here, and that's all. That's fine by me. So the age, the column for the age is okay. I'm not going to touch it. So for the department, it's a little bit shrink out, so I'm going to expand it to 1, 2, and 3. All right. So it's spaced out like that. Then the score is okay. Then the remark, I think it's okay, but I'm going to shift it a little bit, just 1 cell. And now I have a full cell body. So this is how I can create my very simple body and table in Excel. That's creating a data entry table in Excel. So I'm going to highlight these ones. You see, I can highlight, and I want to give let me say I want to make it bold. Okay, now it's bold. I want to increase the font size from 18 to maybe say 20. Okay, this one I've shrunk out. I'm going to expand it a little bit. Yeah. Alright. So I can have something like that. I can even give it background color. Go to background color. Give it a light background color like that. Yeah. Why that color? I don't like that color. Let me use blue. Yeah. I can change the text to white or anything I want. Okay. Change it to maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe something like that. Don't look too good, but these 2 contrasting colors. I think I should change this other one to lighter blue. Lighter, and change this one to, yeah, maybe black is fine. Alright, something like that is okay. So that is how we can create a very simple table. You can even add header and so on it. So I'm going to create the name. Let's say the name of the first student you have is Victor Onyemaichi. Okay. Let's say the age is 19. The department is Library and Information Science. And information. So the score is 6. The remark is pass. Now, this is how Excel works. But adding the score here should automatically give us the remark. So we can actually write a program in Excel, because we write programs here. We're going to write a program in Excel that will tell us the score of the person, whether the person passed. Sorry, that will tell us the remark of the person. All we need to do is to enter their score, and Excel is going to tell us whether they passed or they failed the course. This is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to command this table so that Excel will tell us whether the person passed or failed based on their score. Then after that, we'll do another table again where Excel is going to calculate both their exam score, their exam score, their CA score, that's continuous assessment, and then give us their total, and also give us their average, and also give us their score. So let me write it down here very quickly. So it's going to be a classwork for tomorrow. So it's going to be build a program or write a program. Let's write a program in Excel that will calculate the students' total score. So total score will be there. Total score, average score, total score, average score, and remark. Okay, so that's what the program is going to do. We're going to write a program tomorrow. That one will give it the students when you give it the students CA, continuous assessment, and exam score. It will automatically calculate their total score, give us their average, and also tell us whether they passed or they failed the class. Alright, so that's what we'll be doing by tomorrow. So what I want you to do is to create this file. I'm not going to give you this Excel file, this particular one. I want you to create your own. Look like this. Tomorrow you are going to show me what you did from here. So you saw how I created a table, and then so from tomorrow I'm going to create another sheet. You can create another sheet from here, but I don't want to go into that right now. And then I'm going to show you how these tools work too. Then before we start working on all these stuff. Right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to bundle the class and the video, and then I'm going to export it and send it to you. I don't know if you have any questions.
Okay, yes, this Excel, how will I locate it in my system? Then if you just direct me how I'm locate it.
Okay, to locate it is simple. Okay. To open Excel, there are several ways. You can come over here and search for Excel, and then look at it here. It will open. Click on it now, it will open. Or you can go to the Start menu, scroll down to where is it? Yeah, go down to Microsoft. Yeah, look at the Microsoft. Then look at Excel here. So that's the second way. You can just simply search it here, Excel, or just scroll down to Microsoft Office, and then you can see Excel here. I think the one you're using in your system should be version 13.
Okay.
Alright, I will send it to you this night. Before, like in the next, I need to compress it.
Is that I download your data?
I'll send it to you. Yes, I'll send it as a link. Then you download it. You just click on it to download.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright.